Hello students, my name is Liz Attia and today's topic is the rule of law. Okay, the rule of law. The rule of law requires that no one is above the law. This includes those who make the law and enforce the law. So it's pivotal to this idea of the separation of powers, and it's an attempt to ensure that there's no nepotism or corruption, that the law is universally applied and applied consistently to everybody that it's meant to, with objectivity and fairness. So even those who actually make the law, even those who enforce the law, even those who actually administer the law, even those who ensure that the law is not broken, are subject to the law. That includes judicial officers, it includes police officers, it includes investigators, it includes politicians themselves. And in fact, it's this idea of the rule of the law being sacrosanct, of it being over and above the individuals themselves who seek to administer it, that gives the law its enforceability. So it's sacred, irrespective of those who actually work within its operation. And that's pivotal to our Australian legal system. In fact, sometimes you will actually see, because of this concept of the rule of law, for example, solicitors or barristers who break the law are in fact treated more harshly. Why? Because they're actually considered to compromise the integrity of the law by actually breaching its rules. So, I mean, we can argue about whether, in fact, the rule of law is practically applied or not, or whether there are some inconsistencies there in terms of the administration. But as an ideology, it's sacrosanct. So why do people obey the law? Well, it's because of this idea of the rule of law, that it's over and above the individuals, that it's based on an integrity and that there's confidence in the system, that it makes people feel safe and secure, that it's based on customs and values that we as a community hold important and hold dear, that there's penalties that for those who actually fail to obey the law because they actually compromise the integrity of that system. So in many ways, the law is considered there to reflect and to mirror the ideology and the consensus and the opinion of the community. And law is often playing catch up there. It always seeks to, retrospectively address issues as they actually arise. And we can argue about whether, in fact, the law typically does mirror the consensus of what people actually want, or whether there's some inconsistency there and there's some further development that needs to happen. But it does argue to reflect the overall values of the community and of society. And often in judicial reasoning, you'll hear judges actually say, well, this is the expectation of the community. The community have an expectation that we actually make this decision because this is what gives us trust in the legal system and trust in the rule of law. Without law, clearly the consequences are dire. Anarchy is the end result. So anarchy is the absence of laws and government. The law seeks to actually promote predictability, to promote certainty around rights and obligations. And in fact, we've actually seen over in history, a state of anarchy can sometimes break out after a major disaster or war. Case in point in 2005 in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, where violence and looting became rampant because of the disaster and people actually breaking the law, and then it became almost contagious and had a community upswell, and people were just doing and looting and burning cars and breaking windows and vandalism. So without the enforceability of the rules being applied, then there becomes a system of complete chaos and disorder. And that's why the rule of law becomes even more important, because the alternative is too hard to actually live with. Consider a world without rules. It would actually be a disaster. Now, that's one consequence of no laws, anarchy, which is everybody can do anything that they want. The other is tyranny, and that's based on the idea of an absolute dictatorship, where one person or one authority is given absolute power over the citizens in their country. So we have tyrannical laws which are based on the whim of the tyrant without regard for the established legal system, and they can make up any rules as they go along according to what they want or what they don't want. And tyrannical powers usually impose severe penalties then for violations of the law, because it's actually about power being concentrated in one particular body. And some leaders some leaders who have been considered tyrants over the years are Saddam Hussein in Iraq or Mugabe in Zimbabwe. So we do see in history some examples of tyrannical governments, and the implications for those sorts of systems are probably just as grave as those in anarchy. Thank you, students. That brings today's topic to an end.